I don't know why Tom Paris had to go and create Shea Fook on the holodeck when all he had to do was go down to deck 4, enter Tuvok's quarters at 1 o'clock in the morning, and you are into Shea Fook in the flesh there with the purple velour and the lighting, just the sexual posture of Tuvok. I enjoyed seeing Vulcan pajamas. I thought that those were kind of cute. They're like wizard pajamas, basically, which makes sense, I suppose. But it's good that a Vulcan isn't thrown off when an angry coworker storms in at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're in your underwear or whatever. Tuvok handled it well. Yeah,
I like that his after hours quarters is just like a Prince video.
Yeah, a lot of Purple Rain. Purple. It's another edit to have where Tuvok reaches for something and turns off Purple Rain as it's playing in the background as Harry Kim comes in.
I mean, it would be it would be fitting if the Vulcans were like, we no longer subject ourselves to the emotions. However, Prince does all the speaking we could ever need to do on the subject.
I thought Prince is going to be the thing that brings down the downfall of Vulcan society. They just start crying and swaying and as Purple Rain plays.
What if the Vulcan society, they don't have access to their feelings, but in lieu of that, they just make mixtapes for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's like Janeway is about to get marooned on this planet, and Tuvok's like, Captain, I have this tape I'd like to give you that should say everything I need to say for me.
No more letters from Tuvok.
It's just Hey Delilah 4 times.
I think of you when I hear that James lyric, she only comes when she's on top, Captain. Resolutions is the episode. It's the 25th episode of the second season, penultimate episode. I always enjoy when I get to say that. 13th of May, 1996, it came out on, written by Jerry Taylor, directed by Alexander Singer, in-universe date 49690.1, 2372. In Resolutions, Voyager is forced to abandon Captain Janeway and Chakotay when they are infected with a terminal illness. Tuvok leads Voyager on a mission to find the cure. So it's the second to last episode before we go into the two-parter that's going to wrap up the season. We're only going to watch part 1, obviously, before the season ends, as is our the way of doing things. But I don't know. Do you want to start with talking? Like, I don't know if the things are connected enough where we have to talk about them. Well, maybe I'll start with this because I think this is kind of a spicy thing. I think, in contrary opinion to what a couple of patrons are going to say, I think later on, I think Kate Mulgrew is not doing a good job acting as Janeway in this series. I thought this episode was really strange for Janeway, and I don't know how this character is supposed to be read or what she is as a person, or like what the difference is between when Janeway lets her hair down and she doesn't let her hair down. I don't know. I don't find her. And I guess it spills into the whole Chakotay and Janeway on the planet thing, which was made me feel really uncomfortable. It was like watching my like grandparents flirt or something. It was just really odd and like close but not close, and I couldn't tell if there's a lack of chemistry. I don't know how much this is the performances, how much is actually going on the planet and stuff like that. But I don't know any of those things. If you want to say that, if you want to defend Mulgrew's performance, maybe that's a good place to start too.
I don't know if this is the best episode to judge her on as far as that goes, because her performance in this episode basically boiled down to crouching and putting her hand out to a monkey. Yeah. Which she does 3 different occasions.
Yeah, the monkey is the worst guest star I think we've had in a long time.
Yeah, it's approaching a monkey and the way in which she sensually receives a massage are the 2 things she has to do in this episode. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a ton for her to really chew on in this. This is a weird episode because it's like it's not bad, and like the idea is interesting. I mean, it's a fairly realistic idea to, what these people are out there doing.
Yeah, it's a good Voyager concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what this episode kind of boils down to is two plots that are about the audience waiting. One plot is the audience waiting for Tuvok to say, all right, let's go talk to the Venetians or whatever, the Vidians. And the other plot is the audience waiting for those two to just bone each other's brains out.
Mm-hmm.
And that one never happens, at least. And it's, I don't know, I just found this...
That you know.
I found that we know. Yeah, that's true. It might have happened.
Mm-hmm. It could have.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found it fairly anticlimactic and underwhelming.
Well, I mean, maybe that's why the performance thing sticks to me, because, like, I should be getting something from those two on the planet, right? And it's just like, it's the way Mulgrew plays Janeway for me. A lot of this is that it's like she's not emotional enough. Like, I find Janeway being sexy to not work on any level whatsoever because of the Mulgrew performance, I think, where she's almost robotic in how she goes. Like, it's this, it's like a theatrical performance in some ways that doesn't even ever go big in the way that you'd expect a theatrical performance to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like, Chakotay, Robert Beltran also isn't exactly doing great shakes here, but it's like, I found the fact that he's supposed to be getting, like, so horned up from all this, like, stuff, and she's taking a bath and things like that, and it never felt like there was any real development between those two. And I thought it was just because the two actors either weren't working together, or more to the point for me, I just thought that, like, I don't know what Janeway is supposed to be, really. I think that she's really poorly defined at this point and poorly performed. Well, or, like, performed in a way that does not suit whatever they want this character to be.
Yeah, I think the same goes for Chakotay. I don't find him to be engaging really ever. And I didn't find his performance to be like, the only thing that's a little bit different is that he does seem to be kind of like more than happy to be off the ship and building a log cabin.
Yeah.
Which is a little interesting, but it's not something that they ever, like, kind of talk about or whatever.
But I don't know if it's because of he's with Janeway, or if he just doesn't like being on the starship anymore.
Right,
you know?
Right. Yeah, like, it's not something that they ever address. And, like, this could have been a lot better on their end if they tried to play up the awkwardness of it, because I feel like whatever this story between the two of them is supposed to be is very awkward, and I don't think it's on purpose. Whether it's, you know, during the massage, he's like, I've had a lot of practice. My mother said I was really good at this, which doesn't make Janeway immediately jump out of the chair and move to the other side of the room.
That turned up the heat in that room. I'll tell you what, everything Janeway needs to know. Yeah.
Or if it's when, you know, they're having their heart to heart, and he just on the fly improv some ancient bullshit.
Yeah,
where he's
indistinguishable from his normal bullshit.
That's when the warrior decided to stay with the queen, because the queen totally was willing to show her boobs, and it's just like, it's so awkward, and it's not really that endearing.
No.
And, like, nothing else that really happens is that, like, there's no chemistry between them at all, and I think it's heightened by the fact that they both are playing it kind of in a very I'm not really sure what they're trying to play here.
I just thought that, like, I know it's a Star Trek show. When they're stranded on the planet for some reason, it becomes an unrealistic performance to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You would think that their sort of stoic, reserved, uptight nature is a part of being in Starfleet. You know, like, the job demands that from them, and you'd expect that when they get to the planet, and this episode takes place over, like, 12 years or something, like some extremely long amount of time is passing. like long enough.
I don't think it's that long.
It's not that long, but it's like 6 months or something. It's some absurd amount of time.
Is it 6 months?
It's an extremely long time. Yeah,
really?
Because they say like they've been gone for 6 weeks, and then it takes another six weeks to get back to them, and there's some other time that's passed as well along those lines. I think some of the patrons will have it pinned down a little bit better, but it's a couple months at least, and I just feel that like. The performance, it's like this has to be a kind of sexy episode on the planet between those two, because that's the only way that the ending works at all. If the ending is, we can never admit what we've done, and I'm just going to boss you around now for the rest of the series, and this is the way that our relationship is going to go. And it just never... I don't know what it is. It feels down to their clothes, where Chakotay put on like his like farmer outfit, and it's like none of this really feels realistic or interesting or grounded, I guess. Like I thought that I feel like the Tuvok and Kim antagonism is more believable and grounded in what I think this story would actually be saying about those characters than the way that the romance plays itself. And I think that the romance is central to it, where the Kim and Tuvok thing is just kind of the B plot that should feed off of it, but like supplants it in my opinion in this episode.
Yeah, and the Tuvok stuff, I don't know. It's not particularly interesting. Like the idea is interesting. Again, very like the episode in general, the idea is interesting, but like at the end of the episode, Tuvok goes back on his orders in order to do this thing that does kind of almost get them killed. And then again, as they've done in the past, they kind of wrap it up with like a sitcom joke from Janeway, where she's like, well, I guess you'll never, it's almost like you have an emotion there, Captain, or Admiral, whatever the fuck his rank is. And I found myself thinking like, wow, what does this mean for Tuvok? Like he's like, I feel like there's a lot on the table character wise that he should be able to like decompress from this. Given that he was given an order to do something which he was dead set on doing, very reluctant to go the other way, frankly did not want to do it even when they were there. And then when the captain comes back, she's like, thanks for disobeying the order. It's like, what do you want from me? Like, what is this? How am I supposed to, is this apply to everything or just when it involves your life? Like, I don't know. I think there's, I think there's some interesting stuff in there that is kind of left on the table. Cause I mean, like you get a little bit of that in the conversation with Tuvok and Kim, but that's mostly about like, who's going to take responsibility for, like they just kind of have a back and forth over like whether or not, what the chances are that the Vidians are going to help them and like who's going to take responsibility. But I feel like there's definitely stuff there where Tuvok could get into like, I'm the captain of this ship. I have to follow, or, like I need to, my orders you need to respect me. And as much as I respect Janeway in that I'm going to follow her orders, even though she's not here, like that kind of stuff. And they don't really get into any of that stuff. Yeah.
It's kind of curious to me, like the crew sort of mutinies in this episode.
Yeah.
They like forcibly make Tuvok change his mind without holding a phaser to his head or anything. Like they basically all just say, we're not going to listen to you until you change your mind about things. They dress it up a little bit more than that, but I never, like they kind of have Kess come in and convince him to do otherwise or something like that. But I don't feel that the change of Tuvok's heart and mindset is deserved in this. It's just a means to an end that they have to go back and get the captain.
When he does change his mind, I feel like it's not earned at all. Like it's like Kess comes in, she's like, but what if you did? And he's like, fine. It's
we
and
feel
then he comes
sad.
Out,
and he says,
we feel and he comes out and he's like, okay, we're gonna do this. This is entirely on me. I'm absolving all of you, blah blah blah. I wish he had come out and like chewed them out first. And then said, okay, we're going to do this. Like if he came out and he was like, may I remind you that the Vidians stole Neelix's lungs out of his body. And they also killed a bunch of people on the ship. Oh wait, no, that was in the other ship that got blown up. But anyway, they tried to steal B'Elanna Torres's DNA. They split her into two people. Like, there's a list of horrible things that these people have done, which is the reason why Janeway was like, do not go to these people, because it was Tuvok's idea. Like, wasn't he the one who was like, I think in the. I think it was in the conversation that he was having with Janeway, when that came up as an option. I think it was either him that brought it up, or she was like, I'm assuming you are deducting that the logical course of action might be to reach out to the Vidians or something like that. He's involved in it somehow, I think. I could be completely wrong, but I think he is. And like, I feel like the crew for pulling that shit deserves to get chewed out first before Tuvok is like, okay, turn the ship around or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's, the way that this stuff is set up in the structure and the things that this crew should value, it shouldn't just be we just disagree with the captain and we're going to all, for where the payoff is so much at risk about whether or not this is going to be worth it for one person as opposed to getting everyone home. It does feel like Tuvok's point of view needs to be respected a little bit more, because he's not, his original decision is not outrageous for a lot of reasons, as you said. Like, he's obeying Janeway's order. It also doesn't make a ton of sense to go back for them.
Right.
The best the show can do is Neelix has a line. He's like, as the morale officer, I have to tell you, people are not going to react to this very well.
I know, it's like, yeah, no shit, Neelix. Thanks for coming to the meeting.
he's got to chime in every once in a while when he can to make sure that he still holds that job. So it's stuff like that. It's like, but at the same time, I actually thought it was kind of a great Harry Kim plot. Like, it at least gave Harry Kim something to do, and I don't mind him being the, I don't know how well it meshes with what Harry Kim has been to this point, which is sort of like a doughy, bland ensign character who just kind of goes with the flow. So in some ways, it feels more like this is a Tom Paris reaction to something. But Paris doesn't have that. He's got the Harry settle down stuff in this one as Kim is about to fly off the handle. But I still liked it for Kim. I thought that it's something that the series is seemingly built for, which would be this kind of conflict between the characters as they're making their journey home. And this was the first time I felt that Kim actually had something to do like that.
Yeah. This was the first time where in a while that they've kind of done the thing that we have been complaining about recently, where they have this situation that affects everybody, but you don't get anybody else's point of view on what's going on. And they do have a nice bit where you get to kind of jump around the ship a little bit and see, Kim feels one way, Torres feels one way.
Side conversations about the main topic.
Side conversations. The crew is taking it poorly and they're slacking on their duties because they're not focused or whatever, or they just don't respect Tuvok or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, that's nice. I think they do that a bit better. But
plays up the Maquis separation a little bit, because there's like a distinction between the two.
Speaking of that, furthering the emasculation of Chakotay that this show seems to dead set on doing, Janeway gets to say goodbye to everybody on the ship, and then Chakotay doesn't get to say a goddamn thing to the other half of the people on the ship who are all his soldiers in the Maquis.
Yeah. She just chimes her thing off and he says, nicely said, Captain.
Yeah, it was like on every on the Oscars where like the first producer gets to say everything, and then like they step away and the second producer goes over to say something, but the music's already playing. And
the business partners who invested a little bit less don't get the main.
Yeah, they're already halfway to the Campbell Soup commercial at that point.
Yeah, even I just didn't. It's brought us around back to the Janeway and Chakotay being stuck on the ship thing. I really don't think they sold that well, and I don't think that I'm feeling this way about a lot of Voyager episodes. Like, this does not deserve to be a two-parter, but I can't help but think that it would benefit from being longer than it is.
I see what you're saying. However, if this was a truly serialized show, right, and they did 4 episodes where Janeway and Chakotay are marooned on a planet, by halfway through episode 2, we would both be like, "This is fucking awful.
No,
we can't do 2 more episodes of this shit."
Someone either die or come back or have that monkey turn into something. I know it's. I guess the caveat there is like, if the show is better written at this point, a lot of their ideas feel like they need a little bit more time to sink in than the allotment that you're getting with them. Just time for Janeway and Chakotay to let their hair down, like
literally.
It comes down to the writing too. Like I feel like those two alone have to have more conversations with each other. You have to have, when you're leaving, a better farewell than the captain gives to the ship and stuff like that. Like I feel that we know as audience members that we're not seeing Janeway and Chakotay going to be permanently stranded there. So the show's trying to save time and not have it to do that. But the only way that you see this storyline played out through these characters is if those characters actually act like they're going to be stuck there for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And the way that they have to do it in 42 minutes is that you don't have time to really develop that stuff. Like, you don't have time to say goodbye. It's the same with when Tom Paris left, when he faked out everyone and went as a double agent to the other ship. The goodbye is like pathetic to a character, And they've done it a bunch of times, and I think that they just don't. The producers are aware that the show is not going to change, so they feel like wasting the audience's time would be a waste of time by pretending that people are going to go. But the only way that you really get into the story is if the characters act like they are actually leaving or being stuck somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like there's you got to walk a fine line with that stuff, right? Because I remember when we were doing Discovery, we were kind of really getting in on that show for taking so much time to do goodbyes on that show. And I think there's probably a middle ground where it's like, yeah, you can play it like the characters are actually leaving, but also let's not do a 40-minute clip show with everybody crying about it or something, because we know they're coming back next week.
I see those.
It's tough.
The balance there is that Discovery is like all emotion, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It becomes tiresome that way, where Voyager there's really no emotion to this story, in my opinion. But the story is built for that. It's very soap opera-y, and it's built around the frustration of being out there, and the frustration of being left behind, and the frustration of like, what do you do now with this person? In some ways the plot is actually kind of cheating too, because it's almost like the characters of Chakotay and Janeway know that they're going to be rescued by Voyager at the end of the episode. So there's a hesitancy that I think, if they assumed that they were stuck there for the foreseeable, like the rest of their lives, I don't understand their reticence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're going back to the ship, it makes more sense.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying, but I also think, like, given the two people who they are, it's not like they're gonna, as soon as the Voyager goes over the horizon, they're not gonna just like strip their clothes off and start humping each other.
No, but the
because the fact that he's like even kind of weirded out by calling her Catherine,
yes,
I think is representative of the kind of relationship that they do have. So I don't not buy that stuff, but I do agree. I do understand what you're saying, where it's like they are hemming and hawing as though they are just waiting for someone to come in and stop them from doing it.
Yeah, they're acting as if they know that they're going to regret what's going to happen, because they're going to be back in a working relationship down the line.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that they're trying to play up to that they don't do a great job of, because you don't really get a lot of emotion from either of these people here, is that Chakotay is kind of embracing everything, whereas Janeway is so focused on the science stuff. Like, she's desperately trying to find a cure for this thing, and he's just like, fuck it, we're here, we may as well make the best of it. and they never really have that much of like a blowout over that. You know, they kind of talk about it a little bit, but it's not really that much of a wedge.
No.
And I feel like that's the thing where
Chakotay's building bathtubs out of stone.
I know. Man, when he's building that headboard, I got like this, like the picture of like the person from the suburbs who has no idea what they're doing, being out in the wilderness for the first time, like trying to take a lathe to like a IKEA desk or something. It's like, that's just particle board, my man.
He's not whittling, he's not carving Michelangelo's David or anything. Like he's going nuts on it. I thought that their choice of, that's a choice, right? To make it a headboard that he's making. Like he's like, well, you snap the handcuffs off the other one. I had to repair this, and I've sewn a new pillow that you bit through the last one for. I was like, why is it a headboard? That's a weird thing to be building.
Yeah, I guess I bet it's probably just, you know,
that's the bit of shit that they had in the production departments, and they're like,
no, I think it's probably just like what could he be working on that's kind of implies something but isn't like out and out like,
oh, that's
sexy.
What I mean. Yeah, he's making like a sexual part of the, like an unnecessary, but I only think of sexual things with a headboard, you know.
What are you doing with your headboard?
The headboard is the sound effects in movies about people having sex. Yeah. It's the thing hitting the wall.
I noticed the springs on your mattress were too quiet, so I've made these extra squeaky springs for your bed.
It's that's the headboard. Maybe it's more of just a film and cinema and TV thing, but it's like it implies sex. Yeah. I don't know. It's
a weird, it's a strange story because I feel like the pieces are there. Like what we're talking about, I think we're getting what they're trying to do, but they're just not getting there for some reason.
Yeah.
And
is it script or character stuff at this point? Like if the characters if this performance was better between the two of them, I think this episode is better. And I think the script is almost there. It's just, maybe there's just a lack of chemistry, but I find these two to be, I found their flirting to just be incredibly off-putting and not good. Yeah.
Yeah, lose the monkey shit. And
at least 7 scenes of the monkey could be cut out of this one.
Yeah, lose the monkey shit and focus on some more awkward massages where he talks about rubbing his grandmother's feet or something.
Accouchement. Anything else here? Well, we see the doctor's Vidian love interest. She comes back.
Schmullis, can you hear me?
Yeah, she just Schmiegel, where's the ring? That was fine. She's just a way to get the Vidians to give him a cure.
So I really hated all this stuff. Not because
the Vidians or the woman Vidian, like Vidians in general?
Everything with the Vidians.
Oh,
like
okay.
I didn't hate her specifically because I do like her as a character, but like that whole sequence to me felt, I don't know what I want out of it, but it felt very kind of like first drafty to me.
Yeah.
Where
like the battle sequence, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Where they lower the shields with no repercussions whatsoever and beam the shit on and then just leave.
And like she's sending them a thing from a ship that like she's on the ship, but they're still firing on these ships, and then they detonate this out of nowhere. They come up with this idea to detonate this antimatter thing, which I don't think they've talked about at all previously in the episode.
I don't know why they had to. They could have just I think the Voyager can always just outrun these ships, but they did it nonetheless. Yeah.
And like, I mean, who knows what they don't mention what that's going to do to these ships? Like, is it going to destroy these ships? Because the doctor's girlfriend is on this ship, and she just gave him the stuff. I don't know. I thought it was really kind of like convoluted and a little bit lazy. And I have another story pet peeve of mine is when characters just have to like go get something and then immediately just like retrace their steps. I've mentioned before I have this problem with like circuitous unnecessary movement.
It's the same idea.
But like it's the same idea, but like there's also built into it like, I don't know, if you're just going to get something and it's just a MacGuffin and there's nothing built into the MacGuffin-ness of it, it just feels really hollow to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could say, well, I mean, the point is that Tuvok did what the crew wanted and
it's about
everybody almost got killed.
Janeway, yeah.
But it doesn't really ever feel like that because it very quickly becomes about like, how do we get this thing? And then we get the thing and then they leave and that's it. And I don't know. It felt really, there wasn't any meat to any of that stuff.
I'd argue the Vidian interaction is not important and you could probably not even show it on screen. You know, it's like once Tuvok makes a decision, I'd be fine with just assuming that they go and meet that female Vidian and she gives them stuff off screen and no one cares.
Like I wasn't looking for any. So I mean, I understand they got to make it interesting, I guess, and make it an action beat or something. But yeah, I almost kind of was like would have preferred if they hadn't. Yeah, and it just you gave it a little bit more room for Tuvok to stew in what he's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't say that like, he made some
that's
decision, but
yeah, he does. That's the other kind of the downside of Tuvok's story is that it's not a huge, colossal decision he makes. It's like, I feel that he's right in what he's doing at first. He gets convinced that he could do something else, but going back is not a complete catastrophe for him as a character. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I almost wish that like I think part of the reason why I was hoping it would be just they go and they get the thing and everything works out is because I feel like that is actually the more unexpected way to play it.
Yeah.
Because all of this is built around the idea that the Vidians are just going to try and screw them.
Yes.
And so if you go to do this thing and it actually works out well, it's like, oh, maybe we need to reconsider these things sometimes, and that every you know what I mean, like there's
fucks
a
with
little
Tuvok
bit more
a little bit, I know what you mean, but that kind of undermines Tuvok slightly if there's no downside to his flip-flopping of direction. Does that make sense?
Well, does it though? Because I mean, if there's no downside to it, then he has to now think about like, well, then why was it a big deal that I follow this rule if there was no problem?
Right, which is true, but I don't think Tuvok is set up that way at the start. Like, I don't feel that Tuvok is being so stubborn that he can't see the truth of something and that this is payback for that. That's true.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's the fight scene, the battle scene at the end doesn't really do anything.
Sucks. Yeah, it sucks.
I was more interested in seeing the doctor's girlfriend again. I just kind of I was kind of hoping she would be back on the ship for a scene or something, but
no message. It has Voyager's been doing this too, where it feels like they are short in coverage or something during these action sequences. It has like the doctor standing at a console as the ship is apparently in the middle of battle, and he lowers the shields and he beams it on, and it's all just one shot. Like there was some other episode where we talked about how silly it was, where like Paris is in a shuttle and Chakotay and Tuvok are standing at a console basically narrating everything that's happening off screen to you.
Yeah.
Voyager tends to do that a lot, where the action sequences are just you're staring at a character at a console as he's describing what's going on outside in the larger universe.
The most cinematic thing possible.
Yep, it's beautiful. Well framed and everything.
He's doing it. He's doing it. Here they come. And here comes the second one. They've done it. They've got the thing.
It's here. Go. Shields up. Get out. Anything else? We talked about the monkey.
Is the monkey like a metaphor or something?
I don't know. I just liked when they first see it, they're like, it appears to be a primate. It's like, it's a fucking monkey.
Yeah. Give him you got to cut him some slack on the budget there. It's we need
glue something to that monkey's face or something to make it look questionable. Put like a little elephant trunk on it or something to make it not quite obviously a monkey. Great performance from the monkey, though.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I don't know what the monkey metaphor is. He doesn't find them the bugs, or he doesn't do anything. He's just there.
What's that Peter Gabriel song? Shock the Monkey.
Yeah, Shock That Monkey.
What's that about?
I was thinking. I was hoping Chakotay would phase the monkey at first, just like stun that thing as it's running around. But
yeah, this is a total tangent, and it also makes me feel like an idiot. I only recently, and when I say recently, maybe like within the past 5 years, realized that Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer was about fucking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why it never occurred to me.
Open up your fruit cage.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about the lyrics before.
Yeah,
and then I was
metaphors. Yeah,
you know what it is. I'll tell you what it is. Peter Gabriel's songs are generally more thoughtful than that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something weird to me about like going to see a Peter Gabriel concert where he does like a deep cut Genesis song and then he does Biko, which is about like apartheid, and then he's like, this song is Sledgehammer, it's about having sex.
Well, it's just because it's so obviously inspired by like Motown dance hall music that I think the whole point of it is just to be like explicitly metaphorical about having sex. Yeah. But it's also, I mean, he's kind of clever in it that it, obviously like it hides it well enough where it's not extremely obvious that that's what he's talking about. You know,
it's weird because once I realized it, I was like, oh, that's extremely obvious.
Yes,
but, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe it fits with his oeuvre because it is very intelligently lewd.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, it's fairly intelligent because it's, you know, he's talking about he's going to be a honeybee. You know, a pollinator, basically, it's stuff like that. It's there. I randomly clicked into a monkey section of this thing. I'm going to read this little blurb on Memory Alpha. Property master, which is an apartheid term, I think. Alan Sims was responsible for casting the monkey that appears in this installment. When the script called for an alien primate, Sims found a spider monkey, which, on command, could walk on its hind legs with its tail erect. At first, Rick Berman just laughed. He couldn't believe that a spider monkey, which you could find in any zoo, would look convincingly alien, recalled Sims. But then I showed him a photograph of what the monkey could do, and he said,
that is a sexy monkey."
And he said,
"Look at that thing. Look at that tail.
Look at that erect tail.
I've never seen a tail so erect in my life."
He said, "That looks alien enough to me."
Open up your fruit cage, monkey.
Book him. He said that. That's why I guess, I mean, the monkey, there must have been some sort of Weinstein-esque thing because the monkey gets more screen time than is actually deserving of the monkey in this episode.
It literally feels like they were like, look what this thing can do. Let's just let's just keep putting it in the show.
Yep. Yeah.
What you guys got to give that thing back at the end of the day? I got a couple meetings I want to bring it to.
Stick with me, monkey. I'll make you a star. That's it for that. We'll go to Patreon comments now. If people enjoyed the content today, or if you're just a fan of Peter Gabriel, you can leave a couple dollars at patreon.com/the Pensky File, and it comes to us, and then we read comments online that you can leave at that same website. You also get extra podcasts and things like that. So, first,
I'm sorry. It's been so long since I've done that voice. I think I was doing the brand manager voice. That wasn't really the Rick Berman voice.
That's fine.
They're very similar.
They're very similar. They're very Chicago-y gangster voice.
Do I have a Batman villain that's gonna want to use you, my friend?
Thanks, everybody. Resolutions is now. These are the Patreon comments. So, Clef says, we're breaking our streak of good shows when a mediocre romance almost grows. The cold open's abrupt and the pacing disrupts. Even with Tuvok, this episode blows. 2 actually decent callbacks to a previous Vidian episode out of 5. Kyle Barrett is our next commentor, who I'll send to you.
Resolutions. A very unique episode set over the course of 3 months, told in a very standard way that doesn't capitalize on all the interesting ideas at play. The Maquis are fine following Janeway's orders and leaving, but Harry Kim is the one to lead an insurrection. That could be an interesting inversion, but I'm not convinced it's intentional, and either way, it's barely explored. Captain Tuvok is fascinating, and it pains me we haven't gotten a lead Vulcan captain yet, although the most interesting characterization is Chakotay. It's weird that he doesn't have a final speech to his Maquis crew, but I like the idea that he clearly just wants to settle down on Fuck Mountain with Janeway. And I wish his disinterest in the trek back to Earth was a defining part of his character, even though it seems at odds with his Maquis past. 3 unimaginative planet names out of 5. New Earth.
New Earth.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing to me about this actually was that one scene where Tuvok was like, I'm the captain now. I had the
he's that meme.
Yeah,
Look at me, I'm the captain.
I had a little bit of an inspiration to go make that meme, but it went away very quickly. And then Harry Kim is like, yeah, well, maybe being a Vulcan captain isn't great because you can't listen to your emotions at all. Like, that's a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Like, is that one of the reasons why Vulcans have never been Starfleet captains? I don't know. We've never gotten into it, but
no, we see Vulcan captains on the other ships, but not Starfleet ships.
Yeah, Spock is a captain eventually, right?
Yes, yeah.
By the movies, I think
he must be. Or do we skip his captaincy, or is he just an admiral at that point?
I think he's a captain, and then I don't think he gets admiral. I think he goes to ambassador after captain.
Oh, yeah, maybe that
could be
makes
wrong,
sense.
but I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, I thought the strongest scene was the Tuvok and Harry Kim sequence in his bedroom. Yeah. That was the most...
When Harry came in and he was like, Tuvok, I never wanted to cause you any trouble. Never ever wanted to cause you any pain.
Yeah, that's
Only ever wanted to see you laughing.
It's unfortunate the instrument he plays doesn't allow him to sing and play at the same time.
Comes in and busts out Purple Rain on the clarinet.
Ensign Kim, you've convinced me. Yeah, I thought that was good. I we've talked about it before, but I think the show is built for those kind of interactions between the crew and this stuff, and they did it fine here. Taxel Bear says, Resolutions, not only is the setup for this episode contrived, it's also one of a dozen or so episodes where the solution is a stasis chamber. That aside, I like Tuvok as an acting captain because he showed that a good chief of security and lieutenant commander doesn't necessarily make a good captain. Is Tuvok a bad captain here? I'd say he's weak, which makes him a bad captain.
He's not a... The only other active cast member Vulcan captain we've seen, or at least Vulcan in command we've seen, is T'Pol, and she's terrible.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just not in the Vulcan blood.
I guess Burnham doesn't count. It's been a while, but she's human, just raised by Vulcans for whatever's that worth.
Also, how come... I assume, do they put them in the stasis pod because they don't know what the virus is doing to them?
At the very start?
Yeah. Because when they wake up, then when they come out, that's when the doctor is like, oh, the atmosphere is blah, 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 or whatever.
Yeah, why are they in the stasis chamber?
I guess because they could, if they were just in a stasis chamber, they could be in the stasis chamber on the ship. They don't need to be on the planet. Unless they're waking up after having been just beamed down there.
Oh, were they in stasis on the ship? Maybe
that's what it is.
Maybe that makes sense. That probably makes more sense. Yeah. Eric McGowan says, Resolution's definitely the peak of the Janeway Chakotay ship. Did they or didn't they? Playing around with this kind of character work definitely fits a Jerry Taylor script. The episode is good drama and pretty unique story idea for Voyager and executed well. 4 out of 5. Ria Lavi is our next commentor.
Resolutions could have been a real great one, but Wong and Beltran didn't deliver as well as Mulgrew and Russ did. The scene in Tuvok's quarters would have been far better and more believable if Harry had broken down and pleaded to Tuvok instead of just being pissed off. I find it hard to believe Harry isn't at all intimidated by Tuvok, especially when it's just the two of them at 1 a.m. in a dimly lit room. The space battle at the end wasn't that great either. 4, they definitely did it out of 5.
Yeah. I like the scene. I guess I wouldn't want to see. I guess Harry. It's just the out of characterization for Harry, where he is fairly forward with stuff here, and he's never been that way before. Kensito says, I'm hesitant to say this could have been a 2-parter, as the stuff with Chakotay and Janeway on the planet is extremely boring, but I would have loved spending more time with Captain Tuvok making a mess of things because he doesn't handle other people's emotions well. 3 out of 5. Matt Ross off the bat, I have to take one off as I dislike alien monkeys. That aside, the obvious beta mailing of Chakotay now complete. The planet was dull and a snooze fest. The fact that Tuvok, right? It's Tuvok. There was almost Spock-like facing disagreement to almost mutiny from the crew was more interesting, as was using the Vidians as a helpful solution. It was okay. 2 space monkeys out of 5. It's a short one, too. Jakey's Gamer says, good relationship development for Janeway and Chakotay that is never spoken of again. That's a shame because I actually do like this episode. Patrick Seba is our next comment.
The captain is stranded with Blue Steel himself. No spirit guide, no cameras, no eagles, no elks. Chakotay's best shot, but our boy draws not. It's separate beds in this dance. Picaresque. Am I screwing up the rhyme there?
No, I would have read it the way that you did too, I think. Yeah.
Sorry. So I was studying the verse. 3/4 of this episode's runtime better spent watching Tuvok's Captain Bligh impression out of 5.
Thank you very much. Next comment is Aaron Million. Even though Kess was the right character to come talk to Tuvok, I have difficulty believing that he suddenly changed his mind because half the crew was standing on the bridge. Kim danced on the edge of mutiny so much that he should have been confined to quarters for a few weeks to think about how he screwed up in not remaining in the alternate timeline that he was given this season. I found the dynamics of possible mutiny much more interesting than the bland Chakotay and Janeway platonic relationship fest on the planet with the monkey. The ending was not the greatest in my view. I would have preferred to see both Janeway and Chakotay separately, sitting in their quarters, contemplating their sudden change in fortune. 3 plasma storm warnings from a monkey out of 5. I actually like the ending. I thought the ending was pretty good. I thought that the episode was not well constructed to get to that ending, but I liked them having to just immediately go back into their relationship, or like boss and coworker relationship.
Yeah, I like that too.
Changeling resolutions. I liked this episode. Mulgrew gave a good performance even when she had to act with a big dumb ape that wasn't even there, and a monkey too. Heyo. The stuff on the ship was the real highlight. Bare minimum continuity. The crew disagreeing bumped this otherwise lackluster episode up for me. 3 going into the woods to masturbate. Build a tub out of 5. Yep.
What are you building back there, Chakotay? Well, I can't tell you, but it involves a lot of wood.
Your mattress springs need replacing quite frequently over this 3-month trip. This is Norman Buckwald with resolutions.
Resolutions. So, no more of the gothic romance in Janeway's life, as now we have a Harlequin romance. Not to be too harsh on it, as the acting of Mulgrew and Beltran is actually quite good. But considering what happens after regarding Janeway Chakotay, I was like, Jesus Christ. Let's just say this episode is more of an anomaly. A monkey and a bathtub, thus 2 out of 5.
Jaron Hatch says, an episode called Resolutions without any kind of resolution? Classic Voyager. It's a fine enough idea that goes nowhere, but it's probably for the best that we don't see the first female series lead in Trek getting frisky with her subordinates. Fortunately, this one has some great interactions between the cast, particularly Tuvok and Kim. Once again, Voyager proves that its greatest asset is, far and away, its ensemble. 3.5 Chakotay's shutting down conversations about boundaries out of 5. Poindexter G.
Who needs boundaries, Catherine?
That's not
like
very...
we're on this planet. We don't. No, do you even need shirt? We don't even need shirts.
Take yours off.
What do we need shirts for? Except if we're gonna go swimming, in which case, yeah, I'm gonna keep my shirt on. But that doesn't mean you have to.
This is Poindexter J. She doesn't take her shirt. She doesn't keep her shirt on in the tub that he built for her, which is nice. Yeah. What was he was like finger painting inside or something? I don't know what he was doing.
I think he was again in the show having like the most truck stop book understanding of what Native Americans do. I think it was one of those like sand painting things.
Oh, he's not making a Zen guard. So what is he pouring sand on something to make a painting? Or?
Yeah, like you're pouring multicolored sand to make like a picture out of it.
Okay.
I think that's what it was.
Put that over your headboard.
Indian stuff.
This is Poindexter G with resolutions.
Resolutions. If this isn't the Trek episode where the most time passes, excluding time travel and other sci-fi shenanigans, then it has to be near the top. It sounds like a month from when Chakotay and Janeway first got infected to the opening scene, 6 weeks until Voyager contacts the Vidians, then 6 weeks back to the planet. There's really not much outside of dialogue to suggest that passage of time, and I think this episode really needed that. Yeah, Chakotay needed to grow a beard or something.
Yeah.
It really needed a visual representation of the time passing. Plant the tomato plants early. Yeah, they could have used the tomato plants.
It's a good point. They plant the tomatoes at the end of the episode for some reason.
Yeah. Plant the tomato plants earlier and see them grow, or Tuvok changes his uniform to red and appoints a first officer. That's actually interesting, too. It really needed something along those lines. Yeah, I agree, because I didn't even register that there was, like, that much time had passed. Yeah.
It's so much time that them going back for the captain is almost questionable in how far you are. You know, it's like that's a long time.
Maybe that's part of it too, where I'm like, guys, at this point, man, like,
they're gone. They're dead.
You left. I know you left your iPod at the hotel, but we're already halfway home.
We have incredible numbers of readings with scanning that planet of killer hostile apes all over the place, and they're just going to tear these people apart. Yeah, it's a long. You know, I guess Voyager has such a long journey that it doesn't matter if they turn back at that point, but that's like, you know, that's us driving halfway around the world and then being like, we got to go back and get our passport and then come back to where we were. It's a tremendously long amount of time. Artorius says, Resolution's a very bland episode that doesn't show a whole lot other than to tell the audience Janeway and Chakotay will never happen. I wonder if this episode would have been better if we didn't know Voyager found a cure till the end and focused on the drama between the two of them. I somehow felt it undercut the episode. Still wonder if Rick was responsible for the bath scene. 2 monkeys out of 5.
Yeah, like what if they had just done the whole episode focusing on Janeway and Chakotay?
Yeah.
And like, you know, it turns into like The Martian with like a romance subplot.
Right.
And then at the end, they get this crackling transmission that Tuvok is,
they
found the thing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as they're about to get down and dirty to the D, because that's when the crackle would work most effectively.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Nick the Rat says, Resolutions. Chakotay's balls would just explode and the medical doctor would need to beam down there immediately.
He'd smash that radio like Jack Torrance in The Shining.
Did you hear something? No, it was my spirit animals. Nick the Rat says, Resolutions. Why were the captain and first officer on an away mission together? It took Catherine 3 days to become crazy and start talking to monkeys and 6 days for her to forget what clouds were. Did she also forget about the Prime Directive? I do not think that the monkey has warped technology, and then they leave it a replicator in a house. Is this how life started on Earth?
That's actually a really good point. They do know shockingly little about this planet other than there's a monkey there. And who knows what they could have set into motion leaving all that shit behind.
I thought it was charming when Chakotay's like, do you want gray on the inside or tan?
Yeah.
The house that they built is so unfuturistic that you can just like flip-flop the sides of your house and it's fine. Nick the Rat gives this episode 1 forced romantic attraction out of 5.
I wish they spent more time with them just so you could see Chakotay making up more Native American idioms.
Yes, yeah.
To get out of doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like when he's like, Catherine, my grandmother says that even the eagle must sleep with the bear from time to time. She's like, oh, okay, then I guess you don't need to do the dishes then. He's like, no, I don't.
No. it's increasingly desperate stories that he's coming up with. Matt Cabana sadly says, the Tuvok and Kes scene gave me Picard and Guinan vibes, and I think both Tim Russ and Jennifer Lean were excellent in their respective roles. Or Leanne, however you pronounce it. 5 mutinous Harry Kim clones out of 5. Undiscovered Mugato with the penultimate comment on this penultimate season episode.
The crew almost mutinies. Dr. Pell returns. Janeway befriends a spider monkey with a chimp's voice. but I am left with the questions. How is Janeway's science equipment unsalvageable? They have a replicator. She can make 1,000 bug traps. Poor Chakotay make a headboard, but it doesn't show up on Janeway's bed. But ultimate question is, did they bang?
They bang. Groppler John Zorn says, Resolutions, to their credit, Voyager's writers have done their homework by actually watching Star Trek. Tuvok's uninspired leadership resonates and dovetails with Spock's arc in the Galileo 7. If it's equally unfortunate that the pseudo-romantic misadventures of Chakotay, Janeway, and Ross's monkey from Friends seems plagiarized from the Lifetime Network. In spite of his Robin Hood tights, Akuchi Moya is far from the boner of his ancestors and equally as far from a coherent characterization. 2 lusty shoulder blade fetishes out of 5. Thank you, everybody, for leaving your thoughts. They skewed low. I'd say a 2.5 for everybody on that one. A couple high 4s, but a lot of 2s in there. So we'll go 2.5 for the patrons. Clay, when are you going to give this one on our scale of 1 to 5?
I think I'm going to give this one a 2.
Yeah, it's a 2 for me as well. Yep. It's a 2 for me just simply because the Janeway and Chakotay thing does not work at all. I'm fine with the other one. If the Janeway and Chakotay thing was firing on all the cylinders, I think this is maybe a 3. But it doesn't, so it drags everything down. Makes it a 2.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's it. Thanks, everybody. That's it for the penultimate episode, Resolutions. We got one more in this season, and then we're done with 2 seasons in Voyager. Thanks for listening. Thank you for supporting us on patreon.com/the Pensky File. Clay, do you have anything you want to say?
Badass is back. We're doing season 2 of Batman Beyond. And this month on Patreon, Amanda and I are wrapping up second string of Stephen King with Stephen King's It from 1990. And we will be getting into, it's probably going to be a long episode because we got to talk about the movie. Then we have to kind of do like a wrap up. And then we have to talk about what we're going to do next year, which is a curated list of video nasty movies. And we'll be announcing what the movies are going to be on that episode as well. So if you're interested in that, don't miss it.
How are you determining the movies?
I'm going to go through the list and be like, which of these can I watch? How many of these can we watch in a row, and which ones before we tap out from being disgusted by our lives?
Gotcha.
I'm trying to keep it to like, I'm trying to keep the sexual assault plot to a minimum if I can. Because the thing that I was, Amanda, I've been watching like a lot of Giallo movies lately, and Amanda's like, oh, you should have put that on the poll. And I was like, yeah, I would have loved to, but they all kind of like operate in the same space.
Yep.
And, you know, the Friday the 13th movies always all kind of operate in the same space. The second string of Stephen King all kind of operate in the same space.
It's tough to get 12 episodes and feel like you still have fuel at the end.
I'm going to try and hopefully vary the kinds of movies that we're watching.
Yeah.
While also making sure that they're not just, gore fests.
Yes.
Because a lot of those movies that were on that list are just like objectively terrible movies. Not like content wise, but like there's a lot of them that are just very shoddy,
poorly
low budget,
Yep.
splatter fests that are just not fun to watch.
Okay. Well, you guys will have the list coming out soon, and I think Voyager is scheduled to wrap up. The season 2 wraps up just as the new year is upon us. So I think the final episode of season 2 comes out on the last week of December. So everything's working out arbitrarily in that way, which is nice. That's always nice when things line up like that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This is Resolutions. We both give it a 2. On to the next one, which is Basics Part 1. See ya.